Hi, my name is Wish. I'm the founder and principal consultant of an equity-based HR consultancy called Into the Orbit Limited. More importantly, I'm the host of the podcast Rainbows and Bullshit. Join me as I sit down with an inspiring guest each week and we unpack the world of inclusion, diversity and equity. Hi. Hello.
Oh, what are we going?
Yeah.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Oh, please, can you keep that in?
I think I will, you know.
Just keep it in. I was just too busy looking at
I
myself.
know. You
What's
look
that
so
one look like on
good.
here? Well, the lighting's really good.
I look
feel
a
like
bit blurry, but I like it. It kind of makes me look a bit mysterious.
soft focus. Like,
I love a soft focus.
like you're being shot through a tea towel.
Yeah.
Like one of those posed wedding things, you know, when everyone's like...
I don't like the sharp focus. Do you know why? I think because I like living life in blurry spaces. So it's like blurry whoosh.
Okay, blurry whoosh. I mean, that could be a whole new business.
Blurry whoosh. Here for your blurry.
Do you like ambiguity? Blurry whoosh. Step into the blur.
Work with me when I show you how blurry the world actually
Yes. And then now and again you can put, like, you know, when you get your eyes tested and they go, is it better like this or like that?
Oh yeah.
And you can play with it and go, what's the world like this? Or
Yes.
like that?
Oh, I love that concept.
Trademark.
I might get Chatty to, Chatty. Chatty's what I'm calling ChatGPT.
Yeah, you have to come up with a better name.
I know, you've got some amazing names for yours.
Yeah, I've got Oprah, I've got Kyle.
Kyle's really hot.
Kyle's great. Kyle's so efficient.
Kyle is banging. I'm sorry,
Kyle
we're talking
doesn't
about Paul's ChatGPT name. Avatars, names, people?
I think they're just called GPTs. So Kyle is one that I created. He's my marketing assistant for my book.
Okay.
And so I said he should be ambitious, like the sky's the limit, and he's positive. But I also said I want him to have a bit of like drag queen energy as well.
I love it.
So when I say to him like, hey, can we chat about something? He goes, yes, queen.
Yes, queen. Oh, I love this.
And then Oprah's my business coach.
I love how Kyle's got tattoos. Love that.
Yeah. Well, I did say, you know, what would Kyle look like? And they created one. And I was like, okay, we need more tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be, you know, a 26-year-old in marketing without tattoos.
100%. Hi.
Welcome
Hi,
to
everyone.
about ChatGPT.
Welcome to, well, we do call it Rainbows and Bullshit for a reason. You know, we like to chat here on the show.
Yeah, hopefully more rainbows, less bullshit.
I mean, 100%, absolutely. And what a way to kick off the third season.
Well, it's the first season properly. You know, like, I don't know why I'm going to keep talking about Drag Race. You know, like when Michelle Visage joined and they say that's the real star.
Did you watch the first season without her? Yeah,
awful.
Right? So you almost don't want to refer to that season. Yeah. Although I don't really, honestly, those that were on the show and my listeners and my guests on season 1, I love you guys so much. But yeah, it's just an evolution of because that first season I started that first season after having 3 or 4 cocktails in Spain on my phone, on my iPhone.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy that that's what you went for.
I literally, absolutely. And then we just sat there and I was like, you know what? I want to do a podcast. And that's where
Oh, I thought you meant Drag Race. I thought I was just picturing you going, I've had a few cocktails. I'm going to get into drag.
I'm going to get into drag.
Yeah.
I do love a bit of drag though.
So you started a podcast after a few cocktails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so series almost like the evolution. Now we're in a studio. Yeah. We are in person. We're getting video content. Yeah. I mean, it's feeling very exciting. It's feeling very grown up.
Yeah, and the first 2 seasons are amazing, and you've got brilliant guests, and this is just going to be the best one.
Season. Yeah,
but I don't believe that you should compete with your peers.
No, but you should compete with yourself.
Well, right? I don't even agree with that. I think you should compete with things like Netflix.
Okay, okay, fine. You know, you're just like, let's go straight up there with.
Well, as in, like, compete for the stuff that's competing for everyone's attention. Like, I don't believe that. You know, when I think about other people doing this kind of work or other writers or whoever, I don't see them as my competition. I see going to wait as my competition.
I get you.
But maybe that's just so I feel.
No, you're aiming high, and I love it. I love that. I love the energy you're bringing, and what an amazing person. You're like, brilliant way to kick off season 3.
The best season. No
pressure. You've given yourself there's a high benchmark here.
I don't feel any pressure. I believe you always give yourself 10 out of 10 before you start something.
Oh, I love it.
and then you just have to work and earn it.
So should we tell people who you are?
Let's just let them work it out. Let's just let them guess. A bit like a weird episode of Through the Keyhole.
We literally just have no one. You just talk the whole way through. They're like, who was this insightful man?
Who comes on a podcast like this? You're probably too young to watch Through the Keyhole. Do you remember that?
I don't know it.
Oh, you should watch it on YouTube after a few cocktails.
Okay.
It was an 80s game show.
Okay.
And there would be a panel of people like Claudia Winkleman's mum,
Oh,
Eve Pollard.
mum?
Yeah, Eve Pollard.
Oh, wow. I didn't know she had like...
A mum. No, she was hatched. So Eve Pollard was the first female editor of a newspaper on Fleet Street. She was an amazing journalist. And she used to do lots of like panel game shows and stuff. And she's Claudia Winkleman's mum. One of the things I love, we're going way off already, but I saw Claudia Winkleman interviewed once, and she said that she was brought up in a house with no mirrors because her mum wanted her to have no desire to look a particular way and to be completely unconcerned with looks.
Love that.
Which I think is amazing.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. And
So,
you
yeah,
can tell that with Claudia because, like, even with was she on Head and Shoulders now? Yeah, do you remember when she was on the adverts for the shampoo?
I don't really watch
But she
TV with adverts.
she couldn't give a shit that she had dandruff, and she's like, and she's like, it's going to sort it out, and I'm like, love that. Not many women were being like that.
And I think she, from what she said, she was raised to just not care.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Eve Pollard, brilliant journalist, used to be like her and other people you will never have heard of. Willie Rushton? Have you ever heard of Willie Rushton? Oh, I'm aging myself.
Oh no, I'm like
Nina Mishkov. Oh, you have to check them out. They're all iconic.
I'm going to. I will.
So anyway, it was hosted by Lloyd Grossman.
The pasta person.
You think of him as the pasta person. I remember him when he was a TV presenter. I think, was he? Oh no, he would go and look around the houses. So Z-list celebrities would invite him into the house. They wouldn't be there.
Right.
And he would go around and he'd be like, hey, let's look at the art on the wall. Oh, look, it's a picture of a beetle. Who used to hang around with the Beatles? And then they would go through like, oh, look, here's a piece of something. Oh, it's the color black.
Right.
Oh, someone black. And then the panel would be like, is it Cilla Black? And they'd go, yes. And then she would appear.
What? And then this would be their house that they were looking at. Wow.
It's called Through the Keyhole. I mean, it was awful, but it was great fun.
I didn't know that, but I do know he had like the tomato and the chili one, the chili pasta sauce that he makes now. He must have had a dramatic career for him now to be thinking of pasta sauces. That is my staple. I use that all the time.
I mean, good on it. Is he still alive?
Oh, has he died?
I don't know. Is he still? I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I wouldn't wish him dead. But I guess that in some ways is the dream of a career, that you can earn money without being
and
there.
evolve and transform in different ways. Absolutely. Right, we're 7 minutes in and people don't know.
People don't know who
Let's see if we can
make it to 10.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Why don't I? So if you were to go around my house, what would you see? You'd probably see lots of rainbow things and lots of books about organization development.
Love.
And you would see my husband, Dan, and you would see... Oh, what else would you find in my house that might give it away? Maybe some art. So yeah, let's just stop there and that's it. Thanks for having me.
I love that. Oh my God. Dr. Paul Taylor Pitt, everyone.
Hello.
Lovely to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I love that. I actually think you've inspired me. I think this is the tone I want to set with every conversation. How I'm going to have fun this season.
What? Talk about a show from your childhood that no one's heard of?
Random stuff. This is cathartic. You know what I mean?
What was your favourite show as a kid?
Show?
Or something like a TV show that you would always go, oh, that's my childhood.
Oh, so I was cartoons.
Okay.
I was cartoons probably longer than I should admit that I was into cartoons. But for me, it was all the Japanese anime. Obsessed with Japanese anime.
Oh, God, you're cooler than I am.
Sailor Moon, and like how do I do justice to Sailor Moon? So there's 5 high school girls that have the power of each of the planets. So you have Sailor Venus, Sailor Mars, Sailor Mercury, Sailor Jupiter, and they transform. And their nail polish like changes color when they transform, and they have these amazing sailor outfits. Can you see why I might be who I am? Because of some of my early inspiration.
I can see why you would have thought that was a great thing. I mean, I had things like Thundercats.
Oh, I watched. I mean, I didn't watch it in childhood, but I was
because I wasn't born.
Well, no, because I watched my ex, who was a little bit older than me, he made me and him watch the whole of Thundercats, and I really got into it.
Yeah, I mean, they were quite hot.
Yeah, I
to
mean,
be honest.
he was.
Is it Lion-O?
Oh yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
Lion-O. Oh, God,
But then
yeah,
I
he
think
was
back
hot.
then that was maybe just my first kind of little dabbling into, oh, who am I as a person?
Oh,
I'm
like
going to watch
queer,
Thundercats. Oh, I'm going to watch
Do you know who
He-Man.
it was for me? It was, you won't know, this won't mean anything. Well, you might actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
Shah
quite
Rukh
cool.
Khan,
Who?
who's a Bollywood he's a Bollywood actor. You type,
Okay.
honestly, Google Shah Rukh Khan. He's like
Yeah.
the equivalent of like Tom Cruise in Hollywood.
Okay.
He's like really big, really famous.
What does
and
he
I
look
watched,
like, though?
He what?
What does he look like?
He's, I mean, I didn't realize just how short he was.
Okay.
But I didn't really, I guess that growing up, I didn't really think about that until now. When
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, he's quite short. But yeah, he was a good looking, handsome Indian man.
Nice.
I don't really know how else to describe him.
Yeah.
But type him in and like, yeah, so he was my first crush.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I crushing on him? And that was my early experiences of it.
Mine was from Clash of the Titans, Perseus.
Oh yeah.
And again, it was like not the remake that you've probably seen, but the
With,
1980s one.
Like with like the green,
toga.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's really.
But there was a part where he wakes up in the amphitheater and he's topless, and I just looked and went, "Oh, I'm gay."
Yeah, no.
Like that. That was it. I think I was about 7, and I was like, "Oh, that's it." And also, I felt really sorry for Medusa because he chops her head. Spoilers. He chops her head off.
Spoiler.
And I thought, that's not okay. Why would you do that to a woman? She's,
But
whatever.
have you seen Percy and the? Okay, no, we're gonna go off on this one. So we're gonna start with. I was thinking, have you seen...
this is the rainbows.
No, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. This is the whole point of our Rainbows and Bullshit. Good chat, random chat with inspiring people like you.
Okay.
So tell me about your words. So the words that you've chosen, we'll get into the first one, but I think there's no surprise based on this chat. Originality. Tell me more about why did you pick that word?
Oh, see, I've sighed just as you said it. So I think I don't know that I've got the brief right for this, because I think I've chosen 3 words that I have a really complicated relationship with.
No, that's the brief. The brief is like, do you know what I love, right? It's everyone brings stuff into this chat because they go on and do their own interpretation of what it is. All I say to my guests, but just so everyone knows, is I basically say to my guests before they come on the show, pick 3 words that you want to talk about. And literally, I've had so many people going different ways with it. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
No, but I just think it's revealing, isn't it? Because I could have just said things that were really nice and fun and playful. I could have just said like milkshakes and Star Wars, but no, I kind of went originality.
What's your favourite milkshake?
My favourite milkshake? At the moment, I'm getting quite into, I don't know the brand of it, but it's a chocolate mint protein shake.
Yeah.
Because protein shakes can be a bit grim, but this one I found is really good.
Do you like Huel? Have you had Huel?
It makes me a bit gaggy. It's a bit clacky.
It's a bit heavy as well.
Yeah. I don't mind it, but I wouldn't choose it first. I would go for Bear Bells as the favourite.
Okay.
They should sponsor you.
Well, I mean, original speaks
podcast.
Again, very original.
Originality. So I think originality comes from being a non-siblinged child.
Okay, only child.
Oh, I don't like only child.
Do you have only child? Oh, yeah, I guess.
I don't like the wording, just because it feels like, oh, you're the only child. Like, I'm just a child. It wasn't my choice.
No, I get that.
Although, to be fair, my parents did. I think when I was younger, they said, oh, we think we might try for another child. And I just cried and went, please don't.
How old were you?
Don't want that. I was quite young, maybe about 6 or 7.
Okay.
And I thought, oh no, I'm not having that. I'm the center of the universe. So there is something, I think, that stems from feeling like the center of the universe.
Right.
That makes me really attached to originality.
Okay.
Because I didn't really have anyone to copy as I was growing up.
Uh-huh.
Both, around me of my age, but also I think as a young queer child, there were no role models.
Right.
So there wasn't anyone that I could kind of go, oh, I want to be like them.
And this is you growing up in
Scotland and Aberdeen.
In Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.
Which, it's a nice place, I guess. I left when I was 17 because at the time I couldn't wait to leave. And that was the early 90s. I think it's different now. I hope it's different now, but it wasn't a particularly friendly place for a young gay person. So I moved to London. I was like, right, I'm doing that.
What, when you were 17?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, to go to university, it wasn't like a hard landing.
Where did you go?
To Brunel, which actually isn't technically even London. It's like Zone 6.
But we call it London because it's on the Metropolitan line now.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have a London postcode.
Yeah,
It's got
okay.
like a HA9.
What's the actual? Is it Middlesex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have a London phone number, any of those things. So it was kind of London in name alone, but it was on the edge of London, close enough that I could still come into London and do gay things.
Okay.
And that, because the university itself was quite engineering. It was
Mhm.
quite kind of very white, straight, middle class. Kids had been to private school, and I
Right.
had no connection to any of that. So originality in some ways I think has been a gift, because
Like
I
it's a
don't,
defining force for you. Almost, isn't
yeah,
it?
I don't feel like I have to fit in anywhere.
Mm.
I don't need to, because I feel really comfortable with myself.
You feel
And
super comfortable doing that as well. It's
yeah,
not performative with you,
oh God, no.
you know?
Although the only time I do feel like I really want to be accepted is by animals, dogs.
Really?
Oh yeah, like if I
As
see a
in
dog
seeking
in the
their
street,
approval.
yes,
Oh, I get this with my cat.
yeah, yeah. I don't care if humans
Oh, I
care,
get this.
but if an animal doesn't like me, then I get really upset.
Right.
Because I also then think, oh, are they some kind of like weirdo detector, you know, and they've like sniffed me out.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, people I can kind of take or leave whether they like me or not. That's not that important. But if an animal doesn't, then I get really sad.
Did you ever have any people-pleasing conformist like phases in your life? Or have you always had this sense of originality as almost as a byproduct of, well, your lived experience?
Probably. And I'm sure there are still aspects of, like, I like it when people are pleased, but that's for my satisfaction, not theirs.
Mhm.
I like doing good work, and I like leaving people or organizations or systems or anything better than I got there. So in that respect, I feel satisfaction when people are pleased, but I
Right.
don't do things just to please people.
Yeah.
I'm also very, I guess maybe another lone child thing is I'm really comfortable in my own company. So I don't feel like I have to constantly be around lots of people. I don't feel like I'm missing out if I'm not going off and doing stuff with loads of people.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's good. I think and this is why I have an also odd relationship with it. In the shadow of that, I guess, is that I can just be so overly independent.
Okay.
And you know, I live with my husband, so it's not like I never have to talk to. I never have anyone to talk to. But like, I remember in lockdown, yeah,
You're telling him something on the podcast.
in lockdown, there was one point where I didn't go outside for 9 days
Oh wow.
because I was just really happy.
Just in there, just
Just
absolutely.
sitting.
Do you think your hyper independence?
Mm.
I'm calling it hyper independence because
Mm.
I call it hyper. What you're describing is what I describe as my hyper independence.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a trauma response?
I think there's probably some aspect of that in there. I guess if I was to think of it as hyper independence, then yes. I think hyper is often used as an exaggerated, like, oh, it's too much.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas I don't think my independence is
It's
necessarily
too
too
much.
much. I think it's enough.
Okay.
So I think I would say I'm adequately independent.
Right. Okay.
Like I don't feel particularly needy of others, but also I don't feel like it's something that I would do to the exclusion of myself. So there will be times when I know that I need to hang out with people or you know, ask for some feedback or whatever. So I'm getting better at that. I think, you know, the fact that I left Aberdeen at 17 and just thought, oh, I'm going to go off to London and do that, that came from that level of adequate independence.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if I'd been so kind of needy or whatever, I would have just stayed at home.
Yeah.
I think all the work I've done in the last 25, 30 years has often been spotting a gap that no one else has filled and then going, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
I could do something.
Yeah.
And so that sense of independence and originality means that I'm able to be really creative in those spaces. So I don't know. I'm sure there are aspects, I think, for a lot of queer people growing up, there's aspects of trauma and difference. I think what also I had within me, and I don't know where it came from, was this utter conviction that there was nothing wrong with me ever. And if someone had a problem with who I was, that was their problem, not mine.
Yours. Yeah.
And so I, you know, again, maybe that comes from a place of protection or defensiveness, but I don't really care where it comes from because it means I don't absorb those negative thoughts or feelings.
It's safeguarding against them, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's even safeguarding. I think it's just an utter refusal to let anyone else's opinion of me affect how I see myself.
Mm-hmm.
I remember once walking home, because, you know, at school, kids always know who's gay and who's not. So there were older kids who were like, oh, gay.
Yeah.
And I remember walking home one day and just going, oh, they're such fools. Like, you know, I was probably about 10 and I was like, I'm so wise. But I knew who I was and they knew who I was. And I knew there was nothing wrong with who I was.
I get that. I really
so
get that.
The originality, I guess, comes from just wanting to be a person of distinctiveness in the world that really prizes conformity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of my work is around being able to show up and do good work with people who can also be original and distinctive without having to conform.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it then gets used in the shadow of that as a bit of a stick to beat myself with.
Right.
Because I feel like I can never do the same thing twice.
Yeah.
And I should always be looking for the next
new,
creative
different
thing.
Things. Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes I see people who've done, you know, one thing really well for their whole career, and I feel a little bit of envy.
I get you.
But I wouldn't change who I am because of that.
I think for me, I really hear that, all of that, actually, what you've shared. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that. And someone who hasn't seen the world in the way you have, in the sense that I was so scared of myself for so long, if that makes sense. Like, I was so scared of who I was for a long time. It's great to hear that you've had those experiences, and actually, you know, that's just great to hear.
But why were you scared of yourself?
I think I didn't want to lean into the reality of what it truly meant for me to exist as a queer Pakistani boy growing up in Rochdale. I think that's that bit for me. My trauma response was almost to put boxes and have my life in different boxes. So I'd have my Muslim life, with mum and dad, and the cultural Pakistani life. I'd have my queer life, which I was really kind of enjoying and exploring more and more. But they were very distinct factions of my of my identity. And I've only started to embrace that in the last 5 years, I would say, really. You know, still doing the work, still, you know, it's a daily commitment to myself. That's, I think, where the fear comes from, because I'm like, well, what does that mean then if I'm me in all of these spaces, if I'm all of me in all of these spaces, what does that mean? And that was really terrifying to even go there. I didn't even have the tools to be able to understand that for a long time. So
yeah, well, we don't when we're kids. We've no idea. We're just making up as we go along, and no one, particularly for queer people, very few people that I've ever met are told it's okay.
I mean, that's the thing. I think, you know, for me, I didn't think it was okay for a long time. I think I internalized my mum and dad. But honestly,
that's the thing. And I don't ever want to take anything away from your experience, because everyone's experience is so unique. My hunch, and, you know, this is the book that I've written, and I've interviewed like almost 100 people for this book. My hunch is that we have a core of wholeness as humans, which includes our queerness.
Right.
We are all completely whole as we are, and perfect.
Yeah.
And society tries to chip away at that wholeness. And so sometimes we do fracture ourselves, or they fracture us, and then we take bits of ourselves and we put it over there. Yeah, so I can only be like this and that. My book is really around how do you integrate that sense of wholeness that includes our queerness.
Yeah.
Because I knew, and it's something that I've been asking everyone who I interviewed, I asked them, when did they first come out to themselves? And then when did they start noticing that it wasn't safe for them to come out to anyone else? Okay. And they're two different points.
Yeah.
People will often go, oh, you know, I saw this cartoon character and I fancied him and therefore I'm gay. And I then heard my parents saying that, you know, if any child of mine was gay, they'd have to be kicked out of home.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I don't believe there's anything like internalized homophobia that isn't put there by someone else.
I get you.
And so for me, there isn't a sense of fearing who I am. it's about being afraid to be who I am in a world that doesn't want me to be who I am.
Yeah.
But also with age, I think I'm becoming much less fearful and much more angry. And I quite like that.
Yeah, it's a shift.
I'm really good with feeling quite angry because it's more powerful.
Yeah, I hear it. So yeah, absolutely. No, that it really speaks to, I really, really thank you for giving us that rich insight into the word and what it means for you. Tell me about polarization.
Polarization. So again, this is a word I'm struggling with at the moment. And I think
Why are you struggling?
Struggling because I don't know how to deal with it.
Okay.
And that goes back to the originality thing. I think one of the curses of originality is maybe having to come up with a way to deal with something because it hasn't been done before. Polarization for me is an extremeness of intersectionality.
Okay.
So again, I believe that our wholeness is made up of everything we are. It's our cultural background, it's our heritage, it's our history, it's our sexuality, our identity, our gender, is everything that makes us who we are.
Yeah.
I think when we become this or that rather than this and that, I begin to lose a bit of cohesion around how to deal with that.
The and or thing. Yeah. Okay.
Because I know for me, it's always both. It's always both and then more and then more. And so with this kind of lens of originality or, hyper independence or however it is that I show up in the world, I've always believed that it's nobody's business to comment on anyone else's life, really.
Yeah.
It's none of our business. What I see more and more at the moment are people who feel very empowered to comment on people's lives from a very extreme place. And, I've lived through, thankfully, not the worst of it. It was in Scotland, it was illegal to be gay until 1981. So I was a little 7-year-old criminal, but I think that was quite cool. I feel a bit, hardcore.
Sorry, 7-year-old criminal.
I was a badass. So I don't remember that. I don't remember living through that time when actually it would have been illegal to be me.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for that. But what I have lived through is coming out at the time of Section 28 just being introduced and moving to London at the height of the AIDS crisis.
Okay.
And living as a 19-year-old, still unable to legally be with another man because the age of consent was still 21.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've lived through stuff which I've survived, thankfully, and it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
But I see now those same kind of arguments being thrown, particularly towards the trans members of our community, and the huge polarization that that's causing. And I think there's always been polarization. There's been polarization around gender. There's been polarization around race. There's been polarization around disability, all of those things. And I think generally as a human culture, we've started to work some of those things out. I think the polarization I see around trans identities is opening up some of those other wounds that were never fully healed.
Yeah.
And I fear that we're just getting to a place of being so extreme again that it's this or that, it's right or wrong, it's the binary.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to deal with it. I really don't, because I feel like in some ways I'm just as much part of the problem because I'm so at the extreme end of acceptance, tolerance, openness, that I just don't know what to do when someone's at the extreme end of intolerance and close-mindedness.
I mean, I think so many of, hopefully, listeners will really resonate with that. What do I do? Because my beliefs are my beliefs and they're very strong. But if there's, we're both coming at it from in a polarizing space. For me, Gaza, for example, has been the most difficult reconciliation with who I am and my values and where I shop and where I eat and how I choose to where I spend my money and who I speak to. I think it's and that's, you know, Gaza is an active situation, genocide, but there is increasingly more and more polarity in the world with so many issues, global issues that are changing so rapidly, and I just want to be with you in that space. Just say, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm part of I get what you're saying about that. I feel like I'm part of the problem.
And I think also you're part of the solution in the sense of, you know, blurry whoosh.
Yeah.
That space of a bit of ambiguity, a bit of not knowing. Because I think if you're in a place of ambiguity, the way through that is through curiosity.
Absolutely.
And I'm less and less curious about people who hold more and more extreme views that are opposed to mine.
I don't want to lean into that.
No, and I feel like I should. You know, my friend Ola, who's an amazing OD consultant and human being, is so, I mean, she's so wise about everything, but particularly around difference. You know, I've had conversations with her about how do we deal with people who are incredibly racist. And she said to me, well, we listen to them. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And I get that is the way through this, is that we have to be better at listening to each other. I just don't feel like I'm there in some spaces.
Yeah,
maybe I could be more open to it in other spaces. I don't know.
I get you.
But I see it now translating into workplaces, and that's where I get worried.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because for me, a workplace has always been
like
a place of protection. You know,
from all of that. Yeah,
organizations are made up constructs. They are not real. They are everything that we agree they are. And so we can change them. Yeah. And so, you know, going from people as cogs in a machine that are just dispensable to hopefully workplaces that we have now that respect humanity and that respect our wellness and that promote our individuality. It really worries me that there are so many knee-jerk reactions happening and people just closing it back down to it's this or this, it's right or wrong.
Absolutely.
And then people in organizations saying that they're too scared to have these conversations. And I'm curious about that, because I do then think, well, what is it that people are scared of? What's the fear?
Yeah.
And other than maybe very, very famous people who actually tend not to lose anything when they get cancelled, I haven't really seen anyone have any negative consequence for putting out a transphobic view, a racist view, a sexist view. Yeah. I don't see that as being punished anymore. I don't see it as having consequences.
Well,
and so I don't know what people are scared of. I really don't. And so maybe I am curious about that.
Yeah.
I'm curious if I hear people say, oh, I don't feel safe to talk about this. It's like,
why?
Okay, why?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? Because when you look around, very few people have had consequences for toxic, negative behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I hear you completely.
So yeah, maybe I'm not as polarized on that.
Well, tell us about your last, but hopefully inspiring word, hope. What made you choose it?
Because I do believe in hope. I do.
What does hope look like for you?
What does hope look like? Hope to me looks like a big question mark. Like I hope I'm never really certain about that much.
Yeah, I get that.
I hope I'm always amazed, and I hope that I'm always surprised by what's possible. And so hope for me is a question mark. Which is ironic, because then I think, sometimes hope feels so lame. It feels so nothing. Like, you know, what have we got? Oh, we've got hope. Okay, great.
What is that? Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's pay our rent with hope. But I think it's the thing that when I keep coming back to places of doubt or sadness or insecurity or any of the things that the world makes me feel, I think, but I have to have hope. That's the one thing I won't let go of. I remember driving home one day years and years ago and listening to a podcast, and Oprah was interviewed, and she was so clear. She said, my brand is love. That's everything I do. It's about love. And I thought, oh, wow, I wish I could be that clear about what my brand was. And I think in recent years, I've realized that is my brand. My brand is 100%. Hope. I think the work I do makes change easier for people, whether that's through working strategically with a chief exec and their board, or a brand new person on day one with some one-to-one coaching.
Yeah.
I think what I do create spaces for hope where people can see that they are fine as they are and that they can do whatever they want to, and they just need to get out of their own way.
Love that.
So I think hope for me is a question mark in a big empty room full of possibilities.
Love.
And there's a downside, and I hate to be less hopeful, but I think that hope just sometimes feels so the opposite of what toxic right-wing people are doing.
Okay.
They've assembled, they've coalesced, they've made things so much worse. And I think, what's my response? To be hopeful. That just feels a bit lame. Yeah, maybe there is a passivity to hope, actually. And so I would love to find the active verb of hope that isn't just hoping, but like, what does doing hope look like?
So it becomes like an active aspect. Yeah.
And maybe it's like a different kind of play on the word hope, but it's like, how do I know that? It's a bit like if someone describes themselves as an ally, it's like, okay, well, show me how.
What that means.
Tell me who's described you as an ally, because you shouldn't really be able to call yourself an ally.
I go say this all the time. So I could, like, if you say you're an ally,
show me the receipts.
The chances are you probably need to think about what being an ally actually means.
Yeah. And maybe that's the answer then, because ally is a verb, and so maybe hope is a verb.
Could be a verb, yes, of
hope
something. It's a mindset, almost. It's a reframe. It's a thinking about the opportunities in every situation. I don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm going to go and hope.
Yeah. And to really understand that, to really go, okay, and it's inspiring that, absolutely. Well, your brand is very much hope.
Yeah,
you definitely, you hope, and you have shared space. You continue to share space to so many of us, and I'm so honoured to have you as my first guest on the show, and also honoured to share space with you, physically share space with you, because
we're co-working, buddy.
Paul is a amazingly kindly offered to allow me to kind of work with him in his amazing offices, and it's literally been a game changer for my mental health mindset, as well as all the founder business vibes of setting up business. So you've been amazing, and you've been such an amazing guest to have as the first of my season 3.
I'm very happy, and I'm very happy to share that space with you every week, because I love it. And I think that goes back to the kind of hyper independent stuff. It's like, I've got this co-working space. Why don't I co-work?
Yeah, no, I love that.
And, you and I kind of met at an event, and we were talking, and I was like, well, just come and use my office space.
I know, I can't believe you.
I thought, why is it taking me 3 years to ask someone to do that?
Well, I am so honoured to be that first person.
I'm the first person on season 3. You're the first person in my co-working space.
I love it.
But there is something there about just being, I guess, responding to when there's something that I can do to help. It's not people pleasing. It's about feeling pleased that I've been able to help someone.
I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. And I love you for it. Before we wrap up, tell us a little bit more about your book, your upcoming book.
Yeah. So my book is out in October, and it's called Still Here, Still Queer, Now What? It's a guide to LGBTQ+ wholeness and wellness.
Love.
And it came from getting older. Older. Someone said to me, you write the book you need to read.
100%. That's a great way of looking at it.
And it felt, and again, this is, going back to going, look, there's a gap. There's nothing. Like, there are no self-help books for middle-aged queer people.
Yeah, you're really you're really into that. And I know I've been saying, you're really bringing that to the attention. Like, Midlife Queers was an event series that you were part of this summer, wasn't it? Or winter, spring, but and it's needed. It's absolutely right. I think the gay experience, in the bigger sense of it, as in in the world, is you don't really know. There's nothing there about, well, what does it mean to age and be queer?
Yeah.
So the gay experience I have is young gay guys that are out all the time, getting really, going out and partying and promiscuous lifestyle, or lesbians that get married after they make eye contact, and just that kind of vibe of
and other stereotypes.
All those stereotypes.
That's what you're brought up with.
That's
what you're told. It's like, And I remember having this argument with someone about, what does promiscuous mean? And it was basically anyone who's had more sex than I have. That's how you define it. But I think there is, like, the stories that we were told as we were growing up. I think of us as like Schrodinger's queers. It's like on one hand, we were partying all the time, sleeping with everyone, and on the other hand, we're sad, lonely individuals.
Yeah, we're going to die alone.
And
yeah,
it's like, come on, well, can we be both? Maybe that's the paradox.
Well, I'm going to put a link because it's pre-order, isn't it?
It's pre-order. It comes out 14th of October.
Amazing.
And coming everywhere then. I feel like I've no idea how it's going to be received.
I think it's going to be amazing.
I've loved the conversations that I've had with people because I've learned so much about myself from just listening to other people's experiences. And this whole sense of that, in some ways, middle age is just another construct that we're falling into. But there is something about people of my generation who went through Section 28 and AIDS crisis and age of consent and all of those things that I hope will never happen again. And so I think there is something that we have which is unique to share, not just for ourselves and each other, but for people who are older than us, who couldn't come out, people who were so frightened because they would have been imprisoned. I think there's a whole generation of people who we lost to AIDS.
Right.
And I feel like I have the luxury of being alive and doing something good with that. And then there are other people in not just this country, or other parts of the world who are growing up still in places where it's not safe to be themselves. So if there's anything that comes from this book, I would hope that people can see themselves in it.
I love that.
They can take something from it and they can maybe choose to make a promise to themselves about living more vividly, more vibrantly, for as much as they can.
And loudly as possible. And what a hopeful, what a hopeful vision to speak to your brand and to speak to your words. So thank you so much. And I will certainly be at the front of that queue buying that book. It's been an absolute fire way to kick off season 3. Thank you for joining me. If this conversation has resonated with you or you think others could benefit from this conversation, please do share the episode. You can download it on all major streaming platforms. But for now, it's been amazing, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. What a joy to be on season 3. And can I ask a question to your next guest?
Oh, yes, of course. Check it in. Absolutely.
I would love to know your next guest who works for Comic Relief. What's your favourite joke? And how would you like to change the world?
Love it. Okay, so Mobinti is our next guest, and I will check that in with her. I'm sure she's got amazing insights. And yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.